It's a massive undertaking. I'm going to do my 200 favorite movies of all time. It's going to be a list you don't agree with. Unlike my music list, which is just, oh, it's his favorite songs, movies are a little more personal to us. And it's like, well, why doesn't he like insert name a movie here? There are going to be great movies people love that are not on my list. And there are going to be movies that people see on this list and go, wait, I've never even heard of that. It's going to happen. And I went to 200 because I understood that at 100 I was just excluding way too many movies. So that being said, let's start this list off at 200. And at 200, technically this is The Evil Dead, but this is the original Evil Dead from 1981. It's a fun movie. If you like gore, it's over the top. It's campy. It scared me a lot as a kid. I grew to tolerate it a little more as an adult. There were still moments where it's just really disturbing, but it's not disturbing like horror movies are now. There's a lot of horror movies now that are just awful, just absolutely, blatantly awful. 199. And this is where people are going to start saying, wait, what? But unlike my music list, I'm going to explain this one a little bit more. I'm going to try to straighten these out as it goes along because I realize this went way up. I didn't mean it to. I swear it's a left-handed thing. 199 is Star Trek Into Darkness. I saw Star Trek Into Darkness in the theater. I came out all excited. I was like, that's the greatest movie I've ever seen. And then over the days and weeks and months that followed, I realized it really didn't make a lot of sense. None of the decisions made by people in this movie made any sense. And the reveal of Khan and the fact that they used another white guy to be Khan is really weird. Because Khan Noonien Singh should be played by an actor from India. They put Benedict Cumberbatch in there. If he had played any other character, if they'd made, I don't know, a brand new villain, that would have been awesome. But because they had to shoehorn in Khan, because that's what people know, it really detracts from the movie. And then you get into the other parts like, wait, that colonel, that general's daughter's really hot. Why is she British? Like, Alice Eve is probably I put her and Alexandra Daddario, either one of them is the most beautiful woman in Hollywood in my eyes. But why was Alice Eve speaking with a British accent? She can speak with an American accent. She's done it in movies before. But she's RoboCop's daughter. Why is RoboCop's daughter? Peter Weller played the general in that. Why is RoboCop's daughter British? And there were that's just scraping the surface. There's so many things in this movie that just didn't make any sense. And repeated viewings showed just how little it actually made sense. It just didn't. 198. I'm going to stay with Star Trek. And this one only comes in here because, well, it wasn't as good as the other ones. It was a good movie, though. Remember, these are still good movies. Just Star Trek Into Darkness, when I watched it, would have been top 10, and now it's 199th. Star Trek 3, Search for Spock. Good movie. Fun movie. Some boring stuff. Of course, the highlight is they blow up the Enterprise. I remember my mother crying in the theater when we watched it together. It doesn't really stand the test of time like some of the other Star Trek movies. I mean, it's got this whole Spock thing and McCoy, and there's some fun stuff in there, but it's there. It's Star Trek. It feels like Star Trek, but it suffers from the curse. There's an odd number movie curse. So whether it's the first, third, fifth, or Generations was the seventh, it's considered a curse. Generations is not on this list. I'm going to go ahead and spoil that one for you. If you're looking for Star Trek Generations, it is not on this list. Neither's First Contact. So I've kind of slammed Into Darkness, but I still put it ahead of First Contact, ahead of Generations, ahead of Insurrection, ahead of Nemesis. Basically, if Next Generation made a movie, it's not on here. Which is sad because the Next Generation series I thought was better than the original series. But that's me. 197. So you've all seen Silence of the Lambs, I assume. Silence of the Lambs is based on the book Red Dragon. So is Manhunter. Manhunter also has the same characters, with the exception that it's William Peterson playing the main character instead of Jodie Foster. I like Manhunter better. Michael Mann is able to create a mood with his movies. Heat's a good example. Heat is not on this list either. Heat stars Robert De Niro and Al Pacino, and it's great. There's parts of the movie that are just beautiful. The actual substance kind of lacking, and that's why it's not on this list. But Heat has this feel to it, and Michael Mann movies have this feel to it. And there are lines in Manhunter that are just amazing. And it is done so well. And I understand Silence of the Lambs is this iconic movie for everybody. But for me, when Silence of the Lambs came out and I found out it was the same characters based on the same books, and I was like, oh, I've seen that movie. And then I watched it and I'm like, oh, I don't like this. And I didn't, because I was comparing it to this movie, which I thought was fantastic. If you've never heard of Manhunter, I suggest looking it up, finding it, checking it out. It is a really, really good movie. 196. The first really genuinely messed up movie, and that includes a movie about a serial killer named the Tooth Fairy. Black Swan. 196. Natalie Portman. This was before I disliked Natalie Portman as an actress. And Mila Kunis stars in this, and it is one mind screw from one moment to the next, and then there's a twist in it. Which, speaking of twists, there are no M. Night Shyamalan movies on my list. Sorry, The Sixth Sense didn't make the list. But Black Swan does, and it is an interesting movie. It is a very hard movie to follow in spots. And you can kind of guess the twist as it's coming along, and then when it hits you, it's really kind of awesome. I think it's Natalie Portman's best job as an actress. I also think it's Mila Kunis' best job as an actress. And it really is a fun movie in that it messes with you. And it's kind of fun to look back on it the second time you watch it and go, okay, now I see it. It's got that Fight Club category quality. Now I see it the second time through. I appreciate this more. So movies that are like that, you'll find on my charts quite a bit. 195, and this is where people are going to be like, wait, what? This is the Fantastic Four with Jessica Alba, Chris Evans. This is not the one that just came out a couple years ago that makes you want to shoot yourself when you watch it. The Fantastic Four reboot was awful. It was dark and depressing. And the truth about Fantastic Four, and the reason they can't make a good Fantastic Four movie, the source material is not good. You can't make a really good movie without really good source material. Some are able to do it, but it's very, very rare. And Fantastic Four, you just can't. It's goofy. All of the names of the characters are goofy. There's so much goofy in this, Disney should be writing it, and it should be Mickey and Goofy and Donald should be in the Fantastic Four. Like, it is beyond. So, the campy nature of the Fantastic Four and the Silver Surfer movie, which I also enjoyed. I thought Fantastic Four and the Rise of the Silver Surfer was actually kind of fun. It's not on this chart, though. Fantastic Four isn't a bad movie. And Chris Evans to me was good in this one as Johnny Blaze, and you know what? Captain America proved I was right. The guy can play a superhero. The first time I watched Captain America, I had to kind of distance Chris Evans from his character here because he seemed to be playing kind of that Fireball type character in parts after he becomes the big muscle man. So, I had to kind of separate the two. I really thought he was good in Fantastic Four. This is really gonna do it. This is where people are gonna be like, wait, what? How can he do that? How can that be 194th? The Fellowship of the Ring. The first of the trilogy, and it is really hard to watch again. I don't know that I've got through Fellowship of the Ring without falling asleep once since my first viewing. I usually get until the part where Gandalf has them in the mines, and I'm out. And I wake up and the credits are on, and I'm like, oh, okay, so that was Fellowship of the Ring again. It's slow, and there are some fun lines in it, and there's some fun parts, but to me, Lord of the Rings doesn't, for me, lead to wanting to watch it again and again and again. And I have the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and I haven't watched it in probably a decade. I can't. I look at the running time and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna watch some crap instead. I'm just gonna watch some stupid movie that takes 80 minutes, so that I have that other 4 hours of my day that 6 hour version of Fellowship of the Ring would have taken up. I know it's not that long. I'm being facetious, but Fellowship of the Ring is hard to get through, and the Lord of the Ring movies are hard to get through with repeated viewings for me. They're just so long. And the book, the original Lord of the Rings book, is, I got to admit, I skimmed it. I absolutely skimmed it. I have no problem admitting that when I saw singing, I'd go, and we're skipping a page. Still singing, we're skipping a page. Holy crap, they're still singing. And there are times where even the book got kind of tedious. It is a wonder. It's fantastic. I'm glad Peter Jackson made it. You will see all three of the Lord of the Rings trilogy on here, none of the Hobbit trilogy. The Hobbit trilogy, to me, was a cash grab. I'm throwing that out there, even though I know people are going to be like, I'm unsubscribing because he doesn't know what he's talking about. Number 193. And I'm kind of surprised to find this on my list, to be honest. But you know what? It's just such a darn good movie. Fried Green Tomatoes. I've been forced to watch this movie a number of times. It was one of my ex-wife's favorites. It was one of my mother's favorites. And when you have one TV, you're like, all right, so I guess it's Fried Green Tomatoes again. But it is a really good movie. I watched it again about a month ago, and you know, separating it from all the, oh God, I don't want to watch this again feeling I had all those years back. It is a really good movie. It's unflinching in the way that it's portrayed. It's fun. Kathy Bates is a lot of fun in it. Mary Stuart Masterson reminds me why I had a massive crush on her in the 80s. And it's such a fun little movie. And it shows that when Hollywood makes up its mind it's going to make a high-quality movie, it absolutely does so. And that's why it's frustrating when you look at the big blockbusters now, and they're just crap for the most part. Number 192, Dogma. Dogma is a fun movie. There's a lot of fun movies. If there weren't fun movies, they wouldn't be on my chart. Kevin Smith has been criticized for the fact that he doesn't do well when he gets outside of his comfort zone. And his comfort zone is Jay and Silent Bob and all of those characters. And I agree. I 100% agree. And yet, when he makes movies with these guys, with the exception of Chasing Amy, he hits them out of the park. I don't think Jay and Silent Bob made the charts. It didn't. Chasing Amy also didn't make the charts. Jay and Silent Bob, though, was fun. I can still sit and watch the whole movie and enjoy it. It's just, I wouldn't put it ahead of these movies. I just couldn't. But it is fun. If I did a top 300, it would be in it. But then that countdown would take forever. Dogma's fun. It gets into some playing fun with the idea of what if God was a woman. And Salma Hayek is breathtaking in this movie. And I've always been a big Salma Hayek fan, don't get me wrong. But in this movie, and anybody who's going to say, oh, Desperado. Yeah, I know. Desperado's not on the list, but I've seen it, and you're right. She's just awesome in this movie. This is a really fun movie. And Kevin Smith, when you watch all the Jay and Silent Bob movies in a row, it kind of pays off. When the end of Clerks 2, they talk about the money they have, and it's like it's this payoff for these movies you've watched, that now it all makes sense. But yeah, Dogma is a really, really, really good movie. But it's 192. Okay, now to destroy all credibility. Resident Evil Afterlife is 191. I like the Resident Evil movies. Only 2 of them made this chart, though. I have not watched the final chapter because I've been waiting for it. I don't want to watch it and be really disappointed. I think is part of what it is. It's sort of like how I haven't got to the actual finish of the Dark Matter Season 3 because I'm just so upset that they canceled it. And I think I've been saving Orphan Black Season 5 because I know that's the last season. But Resident Evil Afterlife is a fun movie. And a lot of people get angry with these movies because, you know, it's Mila Jovovich and they get mad at her. And they get mad at the fact that the characters are different than from the video game. But when the first movie was written, they wrote it the same as the video game, and the video game creators themselves said no, and they threw it back at them and said, we don't want this script. We want something new and different. We don't want it to be about Claire Redfield. We want it to be about something else. Give us something new and different. So the initial plan was to make the original Resident Evil movie like the first Resident Evil video game. It was going to be the same characters and pretty much the same storyline, and it was the game company themselves that said no. So when people get mad at the way these movies are made, remember, they're not supposed to be like the video games. They're supposed to be different. So that brings us to 191. And it's an interesting start. It's an interesting first 10. You guys can let me know what you think in the comment section below. I know there's going to be a lot of people that say, wait, what? Looking at my my 200 through 191. But I'm telling you, my movie tastes are different than almost anybody else's, but it is distinctly a guy's list once you get up into the top 20. It's very, very much male-oriented movies geared towards male audiences, and I genuinely fall for it. You're not going to see blockbusters like Independence Day, Jurassic Park. You're not going to see those. They're not going to be on here because I usually go for something different. And very often a movie that might get panned by critics, I enjoy. And movies that I may love one day, years later, looking back, I don't love them as much. So that's sort of what you're seeing here. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, as I know you will. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.